Hey everyone, welcome to Fighting Over the Card Catalog, a snarky look back on young adult novels of the 80s and 90s. I'm Jess.
I'm Steven, and I'm here to make my wife happy.
We're taking a journey to find out how many terrible and hopefully some not so terrible books from my youth I can get my husband to read before he reconsiders this whole marriage. Hi.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Morning or afternoon.
Are you reconsidering? Are you reconsidering this marriage now?
Well, I mean, it was a very bad book, but you know.
It's a very bad book. So this week we read Me and Fat Glenda by Lila Pearl, published in 1972.
There are a lot of problems with this book. A whole lot, but I'll go ahead and read the blurb.
Okay.
Me and Fat Glenda. A new family arrives in town in a garbage truck. It lugged their junk metal sculpture and their ancient zithers and harps all the way from California. The town wasn't ready for this new family. Actually, exclamation point. This town wasn't ready for this new family! Sarah was more conventional than her eccentric parents. Still, she wouldn't trade them for anyone else in the world. Blurbs, man. They just intentionally mislead you sometimes. Yes, she would.
Yeah, she absolutely would.
Even when they started their raw fish cake, she simply cooked alphabet burgers in self-defense. Her new friend, Glenda, was really good at thinking up new burger treats. But the other kids and their parents were suspicious and even hostile. Was it possible to be different and to belong at the same time?
That makes it sound like the alphabet burgers are the issue people have with her, Glenda.
So I have to give this book a 7.
Okay.
And a 3.
And a 3. Whoa. Okay. Explain.
The book was so bad, I wanted to keep reading it to see if it got worse. And it did. It would get worse.
So you're giving it a 3 because it sucked you in a bad car crash kind of way?
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
okay.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So does that even it out to a 4?
No, it's a 7.
Okay.
And a 3. But a 7.
Okay, well, I'm giving it an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the book that broke my original blog.
Really?
Yeah. This was the last one I tried to do, and I kept trying to write it up, and I just didn't want to. It broke me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm impressed myself for getting this done. I mean, there are so many, there are fun and quirky elements to it that, you want to like it, but, God, all the fat shaming. The
fat shaming and alternative lifestyle hippie shaming. Mm-hmm. So you can tell this came out of, she came out of the 60s and was like, okay, yeah, everybody thinks bad about hippies in the small town. So let me write about that portion. And at the same time, I'm sure there was all kinds of weight loss stuff going on. It was probably around the time when Slim Fast was starting, and there were some issues.
Yeah, the author was born in 1921, so she was 41 when this was published. So
51.
51.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Math. But anyway, yeah. So she was on the older side already with this. So it's not an excuse.
So the main character starts being friends with this girl who ends up living down the street from her new house. And she gets mad because other people call her fat and say things about her. But her internal monologue is way worse toward her than what anybody else ever says about her.
Yeah. Absolutely true. Yeah.
Not only that, on the cover.
Yeah, let's talk about the cover. And every cover I've seen,
you see a youngest girl who, what age are they supposed to be? He's junior high, but
12. Yeah.
Yeah, she's eating a hamburger next to what is really another average size girl in a larger shirt and loose skirt. And this is the girl that was described in the book as being absolutely humongous, fattest person I've ever seen with chin rolls. And I mean, what does that, if a girl was around that size and she saw that cover and that's how she saw the description of her?
It's so terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've looked up, I'll put this up on Instagram, probably a whole bunch of the covers, and they're all pretty much like that. All right, let's get into it. So we start in California, where we meet Sarah Mayberry and at first her gossipy ass neighbors in a grocery store, from whom Sarah learns that her family's going to be moving, and the neighbors aren't real mad about it because they're kind of closed-minded assholes. So it's good they're getting away from them, but it's not going to be any better. So Sarah and her parents, Inez and Drew, will be moving to Long Island for at least a year. That's how long Drew's contract's for. But Toby, Sarah's brother, is going to be staying in California with a friend for his senior year, which makes sense. So Drew is a professor, an anthropologist, and archaeologist, as well as a junk sculptor, which sounds pretty dope to me, but it embarrasses Sarah. And a lot of things do embarrass Sarah. From the way her mom dresses, she wears like leotards and like shawls and stuff, to her parents only eating raw food.
And her mom using cauldrons to...
dye shit.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much everything. The car they drive, the house they live in, the clothes they wear.
Most of all, driving across the country in the garbage truck. But, I mean, I think that sounds sensible because Drew's bringing all his junk and stuff and, like, disassembling his sculptures to bring with them.
So this apparently isn't the classic garbage truck that I'm used to where they throw stuff in the top and then squish it and then dump stuff up, because it talks about loading furniture up in it. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know. Is it just like really a regular delivery truck almost, or what?
That brings me back to our wondering about the whole garbage in the ground by the kitchen door situation. From Then Again, Maybe I Won't. Maybe there's just a whole bunch of garbage truck shit that we don't understand.
Yeah, because as they're driving around looking for a house to live in, so he gets housing at his school, but it's too boxy and traditional for their family.
It's just an apartment.
So they're out going in surrounding towns trying to find new housing, different housing. And they come across this house that's kind of run down, and it starts off by this fat girl coming out of a house and running down the hill toward the garbage truck, yelling for them to stop with a whole bunch of garbage. Like, garbage trucks are just want to come at any willy-nilly time, and people keep an eye out for them and run their garbage to them when it does. And it's not the first time it happened.
We, missed, whatever regular pickup day was or something.
I got a few pictures from the 60s, which probably would have been the time that was, because this was published in 72. And it was a garbage truck.
This is what I got for 70s.
It was a garbage truck that had been, they were getting a whole new fleet.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
I've got these that look like the classic with you throw the stuff in the back and then it squishes. But then you've also got that one.
And that one makes so much more sense.
Yeah, which looks I mean, I don't
Okay,
know what's
yeah,
going on the inside, but it has like double doors or a door, and you can put stuff inside. And here's one that has an opening on the side. Yeah, so different than ours.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a big, huge truck. But that's when they meet Glinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as they're slowing down, actually she's surprised because her dad was slowing down. And she doesn't know why he's slowing down, but then she yells out, "Sorry, we don't take garbage."
And Sarah says, "This girl is fat." And then she means fat. F-A-T capitalized.
And she's all sweaty.
And she's so sweaty from just running across her yard. So they tell her that they're not sanitation workers, but then they do ask her about the house because there is a for rent sign.
Yeah, and that's why her dad was actually slowing down, because he saw a house with a for sale or lease sign.
Yeah. And so she tells them how the neighborhood has a committee to get it torn down, and her mother is the head of it. But she also informs them on how to break in to look around. So they send Sarah in through a window. She also whispers to Sarah how the only people who would rent this place now are coloreds. Sarah doesn't like that at all. And she says Inez will be really mad because she is totally against being prejudiced. But she doesn't say anything to Glinda, but that's how we meet her. Great first impression.
Yeah.
Yikes.
But, kids mimic their parents. So.
It's true. Yeah, her mom is the most problematic, for sure.
Yeah.
So Drew loves this house, and they show it to Inez, and then they go to the landlord, Mr. Creasy, who's creepy, but he's an alright dude. But they learn that the people who lived there before them were like psychics and another slur, gypsies, and all into spiritualism and shit. And the neighbors in their like Stepford wife type neighborhood did not like that and ran them out of town, basically.
They were actually fine with just her being there doing the spiritualism, but it was when she started letting Indians live with her and gypsies. That's when they had the problem.
So they realize they never learned the address, so they swing by one more time after signing the lease, and Sarah finds a dead cat on the doorstep. So that's cool. So they move in, and Sarah gets better acquainted with Glinda, who invites her over to her house for lunch. They have huge BLT sandwiches and a big-ass chocolate cake. Scattered through all this are little jabs in Sarah's inner monologue. Yeah, about Glinda eating so much and being so big and all that. Just pretty much put that in your head for the entire book. I didn't catalog them all, but they're there throughout. So the doorbell rings at one point, and when the girls go to answer it, something white sails into the room, and they freak out and knock over a whole bunch of shit, and it breaks. Then Glinda runs after this boy who did it, Roddy Fenton, while yelling out, "I'll brain you!" And that was your favorite little bit. Sarah finds the offending object, which was a paper airplane. And it says on the inside, "Somebody fat killed a cat. You'll find out she's a rat. Watch out." So that's cool.
Now, how does he know that she killed the cat?
Exactly. So school starts, and Glinda introduces Sarah to everybody as her friend from California, like they've known each other forever. And a girl Glinda obviously doesn't like, Mary Lou, asks Sarah to eat lunch with her, which leads Glinda to try to change her lunch period as the same as Sarah's, because she's already hella possessive of her. While Sarah's in the lunch line, apparently Glinda came in and talked to Mary Lou. And this girl takes forever to eat, and by the time she finally gets to her sandwich, she discovers that there are 2 actual chicken feet in there. And Sarah suspects Glinda because she came in to talk to her. We finally meet Glenda's mom, and she seems as judgy as
So that means somebody was carrying around chicken feet in their pocket.
That's how I read it at first, and then later on, it sounds like they had the sandwich prepared already and like switched it out, which is still weird and gross. But yeah. So anyways, Mrs. Waite, Glenda's mom's totally judgy, and she brings over a stew to try to be nice to Inez and everything, but she tells them to put it in something else right away because she needs her pot back now. Okay. And later, Glenda tells Sarah how offended her mother was because Inez said she and Drew wouldn't be eating it because of the whole raw food thing, but that Sarah would love it. But apparently she got very offended.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. People in there judging how other people eat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And she's like, they have no, like, furniture in their house or anything because Drew and Inez just aren't really into it. And that's fine. But, yeah, Glenda's mom's really judgy about that, too. So, Sarah learns from Roddy that a bunch of people in the neighborhood are really pissed about Drew's junk and the garbage truck, so they've started a petition for them to get rid of it. Mr. Creasy, who's also on the town council, comes by. But Drew takes him on a nice tour of his junkyard sculpture things, and he says it's fine to stay as long as he's not running a business enterprise. It's cool. And then Drew decides on his own to take out a section of fence so he can park the garbage truck in the yard. And Inez is pretty pissed about this, but she goes with it. So Toby's friends are moving back to Mexico, so he's moving back in with the Mayberries. Glenda is like hella excited about this because she's super into boys and asking Sarah tons of questions. And the day he arrives, Glenda puts on a like ridiculous amount of makeup, but she doesn't make any impression on Toby at all, which sounds about right for a 16-year-old boy to not notice a 12-year-old girl at all.
Yeah.
But she comes over another evening wearing her Halloween costume, which is supposed to be Snow White, but it sounds more like an angel with no wings to me. It's all white and there's glitter. And yeah, I didn't get Snow White from it, but anyways. But she wants Toby's opinion, and he's like, it's okay for Halloween, he guesses.
Yeah, really, she just wants him to see her dressed up with makeup on.
And also to ask him to go trick-or-treating with her and Sarah to protect them, because kids like to pull pranks and tricks and shit. And he ends up giving them a maybe yes, which is not a yes, but Glenda takes it as one. Mary Lou, good old Mary Lou, calls Sarah to invite her to a Halloween party at Roddy's after trick-or-treating. Putting off answering, Sarah asks if she found out who gave her the chicken foot sandwich. And Mary Lou says Roddy convinced to it because he's a tricky guy and he's pulling pranks all the time. And Mary Lou might have heard that he left a dead cat on the doorstep one time. She's not really sure, but she doesn't really want to get into it. But so Glenda might be innocent of all these things. So Sarah asks if Glenda's invited to this party, and when Mary Lou tells her no, Sarah says Glenda wouldn't go anyway after the awful things Roddy has done to her that she's kind of told Sarah about, but not really getting into details. And Mary Lou's like, well, what about all the things Glenda's done to him? But she can't really say what. It's like all really super vague, and it's obvious no one knows what they're talking about. But Sarah won't go since Glenda's not invited because it's just another way to hurt her. But Sarah would really like to go to the party because she's realizing she could have other friends there if it weren't for Glenda being so possessive. But then she thinks about Glenda, how Glenda's been such a loyal friend, though I haven't seen any evidence of that. I mean, she's possessive if you count that as loyal.
Yeah. Yeah, but she probably, like, walks with her to school and all that stuff. And
Well, yeah, she's there all the time.
Yeah.
I guess that could seem as loyal.
Right.
Or possessive.
Switched her lunch period to her period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if this were a couple, that would be abusive. Anyway, Halloween morning, Sarah receives a note inviting both her and Glenda to the party. Talks it over with Glenda at lunch, and so they decide to go, and it's all pretty exciting. What? Oh, you look like you were going to add something. Okay. So that afternoon, they go try to talk to Toby about what time they're going out, and he's like, nah, I have a party. And Glenda's big and strong enough to protect you both. Unsurprisingly, that hurts Glenda's feelings very much, and she runs home. And Sarah follows Toby into the shed to be all mad at him, and she meets Bruce, Roddy's older brother. When he hears Sarah call Glenda her bestie, he's all like, for real? Her mom started that petition against you, but she didn't tell you that. So Sarah calls Glenda to apologize for Toby, but also to ask about her mom. And Glenda gets all pissed off and says that from now on, she'll stick to her family and Sarah should stick to hers. And then by this point,
Teenage drama.
I had finished reading the book, and I didn't want to write anymore. So it did it to me again, but I pressed on this time. So Sarah's so upset about this fight that she decides not to go out at all, but figures Glenda will, and get all the kids on her side. And now Sarah won't have any friends at all, and she wants to go back to California. Inez is real worried about her and tells her Toby will stay with her until 9 before going to his party, and Inez will call her from her own party a little before that, and if Sarah's still upset, she'll come home. But about 7:30, Sarah's like, Toby, go ahead to your party. I'm already upset. I mean, I'm as upset as I'm going to be an hour and a half from now. It's fine. But then she's looking at her costume and she decides her Statue of Liberty crown is like so dope as hell. Fuck everybody else and goes trick-or-treating.
Yeah, nothing could ever go wrong.
But, I mean, it does go fine for her trick-or-treating and UNICEF collecting. Did you do that? Did you have the little UNICEF boxes to collect?
No.
Change? Really?
Nope, never. Was that a thing up north?
No.
No.
Maybe. I don't know. I can't really differentiate in my head. But we got them from church. So maybe it's a Methodist thing and not a Baptist thing.
Maybe.
Yeah, but you never saw them? They're little cardboard boxes with the slit in the top right there and the little handle. And
nope.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So anyway, she takes that out with her bag of candy, and she gets money and candy, and it's great. And when she's almost back home, though, she sees a big old group of kids and one large figure running at her. It's Glenda. Surprise, surprise. And she says someone egged their house and destroyed Drew's sculpture. And all these other kids, Roddy and Mary Lou and everybody, they saw it happen, and it was some teens in a car. Glenda bets it was Bruce, and Roddy gets mad and starts to strangle her. What the fuck is that, Roddy?
Yeah, strangled her.
He starts to strangle her. Yeah, but Sarah breaks it up.
I mean, she did say she was going to brain him.
She did say that. I'm not sure that that's an appropriate reaction, but okay. But we learn why they don't like each other, because Glenda has seen Bruce stealing a fucking car from a neighbor the year before.
Yeah.
And told her mom, who called the police. And he got in trouble, but not arrested. And he stopped hanging out with these people who dared him to do that. And so Glenda kind of apologizes to Roddy for snitching on his brother. And he stole a car.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently not as big of a deal in the early 70s.
I mean, she saw him hot wiring this
Grand
thing,
Theft
and
Auto.
and she's like, "Yeah, I thought it was borrowed he was just borrowing it first, but then like the owner of it is like, oh shit." And
So
yeah.
my cousin got arrested for Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
He was walking by a grocery store, and a guy pulled up real fast, jumped out of his car, left his car running, and went into the grocery store. Mm-hmm. He decided he was going to teach him a lesson.
Why?
So he went and got in his car and started driving it around, took it around for like 30 minutes, drove back to the grocery store, and there were a lot of police waiting for him when he got there. And he was arrested for Grand Theft Auto.
So he got a lesson, presumably.
Yeah.
Why did he think this other guy needed to be taught a lesson?
He has mental health issues, and
I mean, me too, but
at the time he was kind of being a hobo. So
that's a derogatory term as well, apparently.
Any chance to, well, I mean, they call themselves hobos, so I don't know what else to call them. Transient?
Yeah.
He was a transient, and, police will use any opportunity to arrest a transient. So,
oh, yeah, sure.
So, that was just a given. And
but he did steal a car.
Yeah, he did take a car.
Just because he gave it back.
Yeah, so that's what he was saying was, well, I was just teaching him a lesson. Well, okay, but you're still going to jail for theft.
Yeah, you still stole it. Cool. Yeah, but Glenda kind of apologizes, and just to make everything better, I guess.
Well, in her mind, she was saying, like, when she saw it, she just thought it was strange and just mentioned it to her mom. Yeah. And then after she mentioned it to her mom was
all hell breaks loose.
Called the guy, and the guy was like, no, I didn't let him borrow my car. Yeah.
Yeah, so about to start.
There are a lot of issues that Glenda has to deal with that comes from her mom.
Yeah.
I don't think that she should be punished for telling somebody that she saw somebody stealing a car. But
no, I don't.
But she still has to deal with other issues, like her mom starting petitions to get people kicked out of their house. And
yeah. It doesn't sound like they're part of an HOA, but she definitely sounds like she would love to be part of one.
Yeah.
So then Sarah's parents show up, and they're all freaked out because nobody's answered the phone. Because remember, she was calling. And
Did you tell them that... I don't remember. Did you say that their house had been egged and it was like hundreds and hundreds of eggs?
I didn't say hundreds and hundreds, but eggs. It was a shit ton of eggs.
Yeah, so it was the way it was described. It was just the whole side of the house was slimed and eggshells everywhere.
Yeah. So the whole family plus Glenda spend that entire night washing off egg from the house because it's been done to Glenda before, apparently, and so she knows that, hey, if it dries, it's going to be 1,000 times worse. Did you ever do any egging or get egged yourself?
Yeah, probably did some egging, not so much egging. We used to do this thing where we'd get biscuit dough, and we'd drive down the highway, and we'd take a raw biscuit, and throw it across the highway as the cars that were coming the other direction. That was during my hoodlum phase.
Your hoodlum phase? Okay. Yeah. Was it because it was good and sticky?
Yeah, and would make a splash, on the other window. And
it has some weight to it, but probably wouldn't break a window.
Yeah, and that's kind of what made me stop was one time somebody threw like a handful, like a whole can at one time, and I could swear I heard the window break.
Yikes.
and they swore that there was no possible way that cars going the opposite direction that you could hear the window break. But I was like, okay, that's it, I'm done.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, we used to throw water balloons at people. And somebody slammed on their brakes, and their kid was in the car with no seatbelt on. And that was the last time I threw water balloons at people.
God, was the kid okay?
Yeah, he was okay. Yeah. Crying, of course, but yeah. One time we were just standing on the side of the highway. Okay, so this was in Palestine. You know where Lowe's is? Basically right across the street on the other side of the road from there. And cars were coming down the highway doing 55, and we would throw biscuits just standing on the side of the highway.
You little fuckers.
And we did it to one truck that was like this big 4x4 truck. And he slammed on his brakes and went into the field and started trying to run us over. And we went full speed into the woods, and I got all cut up because there were all kinds of brambles and stuff.
I bet it was so fun, though, that adrenaline rush.
It was an adrenaline rush.
You're a terrible kid sometimes.
Well, this was all in the same grade, okay? This was all 9th grade.
Okay.
Had moved to a different school.
All right.
Had bad influences. Some good influences, but particularly one bad influence.
Guess so.
And then I moved schools the next year
Right.
just to get away from that influence. Yeah.
That was a good decision.
Yeah.
I'm glad that happened. Did you make that decision, or did your mom?
I made that decision, yeah.
Good for you. Great job. While they're cleaning up, Glenda tells Sarah that she did indeed know about the petition, but she couldn't tell Sarah because she knew Sarah would get all mad, and she already has no friends because she's a squealer, and they'd already been mean to her before that, even for being fat and clumsy. So Sarah asked if she squealed to get back at them for all that stuff, and Glenda's like, well, maybe. And figured she'll be even more sad after Sarah goes back to California after this year's up. And whenever she's sad, she just eats more, which makes the kids tease her more. So Sarah's like, hey, I'll still be here for the rest of this year at least, so you can be happy. And while you're happy, you can go on a diet.
Yeah.
And then you'll be so skinny by the end of the year that you'll have zero problems at all at the end.
But yeah, that's pretty much how it is.
That's pretty much how it is. So before we get into the really problematic stuff, the whole gag for this book is that Sarah starts cooking for herself and Toby when Inez and Drew start their raw food diet. But she only knows how to make hamburgers, so they come up with alphabet burgers. Like there's apple burgers, banana burgers, and then the very easy cheeseburgers. When we actually begin the book, we begin with D burgers, which I was reading this part just even during our car ride this weekend, and I was just giggling that whole time. It was not good. But she'll tell us what the letter is that day. And then at the end of the chapter, upside down and italicized, she tells us what it is. But we only learned 5 of them. And that's including the 0 burgers at the end. They're just donut-shaped patties.
And multiples were just different cheeses.
Yeah. That was for Glenda's diet. But I think if she's going to come up with this bit, the writer, Lila Pearl, she should have committed to the bit.
Yeah.
And really tried to do it herself and figure out what X burgers were going to be or whatever. So the others we learn are dog for hot dog. And then your 2 cheeses, Limburger and mozzarella. And quack for Chinese duck sauce. I would have said queso.
Yeah.
And throwing in another cheese. but whatever.
Huh.
So there was such a build-up to all this secret bad shit that Glenda had done. And when she had actually done the right thing, I think, and the whole shit between her and Roddy was like basically nothing. But there was all this vague build-up to it throughout the book that makes you wonder, and it's just like nothing.
Yeah.
And like that was it.
Yeah.
That was
climatic.
the end. Except for putting Glenda on a diet. So there's references, like I said, to Sarah's opinion of Glenda's weight all over the damn book. But here's what I thought the most egregious bit. So on the first day of school, someone calls Glenda out for wearing lipstick, which isn't allowed. And Sarah goes, "But I didn't say a word. Poor Glenda. She was so fat. Her whole middle bulged as though she first wriggled into 3 or 4 bicycle tires that had been pumped full of air, and then pulled her blouse and navy blue jumper on over that." This book was reissued in 2014.
Oh, no. Why would they do that?
No.
Why?
I don't know.
Jeez.
I mean...
Okay. This was an Archway paperback published by Pocket Books. Mm-hmm. So I'm calling you out, Archway. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
Something interesting about that, though. So Lila Pearl, she died in 2013. That was a long-ass life. Great for her.
So it was apparently her family that reissued it?
No. Interesting enough, the publisher had just, put the title in to be reissued when he got word that she had died. So that's weird. But yeah, they were already deciding to do it.
Shame.
Because, I mean, I think there are a lot of the books we cover that had to have had some effect on us growing up with weight stuff and diets and, just general being overly concerned about looks. But the weight stuff especially. So, it's like, no wonder, the whole heroin chic, was in the middle 90s and shit. I mean, I know that has to do with designers and stuff, but yeah. And Friends being all skinny, Jennifer Aniston and
right.
What's her face being so skinny.
What's her face?
What is her face? Courtney Cox. I don't know what that did to our heads when we were that young. Apparently, we're the only ones who feel this way. Not the only ones. But reviews on Amazon are and this is of the reissue, so last year, people were saying, "I'm an adult, but it's inappropriate. It's an appropriate young adult read for late elementary or middle school age children."
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. And then, guess what? This is an entire series. Not a huge one. 4 books. The second one's called Hey, Remember Fat Glenda? But apparently she's skinny in that one. I've never read that one. I don't know if I want to. I'm kind of curious. But yeah, this one says the story was crazy but very real and something that teens can relate to and or escape to for fun. This book was the best. It was inspiring and remained in the back of my mind all these years. I'm in my 30s and
inspiring.
Yeah.
Inspiring for what?
I mean, I don't understand how they get this from the book, but that, your weight doesn't define who you are. That is other things about you. And obviously that's true, but I don't understand how you have that takeaway with this book.
Yeah. Whatsoever.
I'm flabbergasted by a lot of these reviews, and it's really upsetting. How would you have taken this had you read it at a very impressionable age?
Probably like everything else that talks bad about fat kids.
Yeah.
With body disorders.
Yeah.
Yeah. As another confirmation of that I was no good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anybody would. How do you feel about Glenda? Do you think they're trying to take the weight stuff and make us feel bad for her? Or is it supposed to help villainize her with the stuff she supposedly does that Sarah thinks she does at first?
Well, I think that's the impression that people get as they initially read it is almost like, the shows that show albinos as the bad people. It's like she's not a stereotypical kid, therefore she must have other issues.
It's easy to lead into believing that she did the cat thing or the chicken foot thing.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think our impression is supposed to be at the end of the book?
I don't know, because, as the book goes along, as far as her actual character, it's not like she has necessarily bad self-esteem. She actually does try to put herself out there. Mm-hmm. Dresses up to show off her costume to the brother, and her reticence to go to the party was not necessarily based on any of her own bad self-image, but the fact that she had issues with people in the past, especially Robbie Fenton, who's having the party.
Right.
So it's not that she doesn't have self-confidence herself.
But her getting made fun of and stuff for her weight does affect her.
Yeah.
That's not why she's not doing something. You're right. Right. So I don't know exactly how. I don't know. It's like.
I think it's almost like, well, there's hope for her, so let's get her skinny so she can lead a good life.
Yeah. Like, okay, we've discovered that she's not a bad person. So, yeah, let's make her outside match her inside.
Right.
I guess that was the inspiring bit. I don't know. Please don't give this to any preteen girls to read. Just please. Just don't. Please don't.
Yeah.
Just please no. Don't. Any other thoughts on this? Because I just can't.
Yeah, give it to kids you don't like.
Boy, no.
All those nasty kids in the neighborhood, make sure you...
All those nasty kids who throw biscuit dough at cars and shit. Yeah, give it to them.
Yeah, those kids.
Those little fuckers. Okay, well, I'm sick of the weight shaming. So next week, we're going to go back to starring Stephanie, the Sleepover Friends, where they just eat as much food as possible and don't worry about their goddamn weight. Hell yeah. If any of you read this book, I would love to know your opinions on it. Were you inspired or were you disgusted? Please let us know over on the Facebook or Instagram at Fighting Over the Card Catalog, and at Twitter at Card Catalog Pod, or my personal Twitter at Just Digress, or email us at fightingoverthecardcatalog@gmail.com. Most importantly, please rate us, not this book. Rate us on Apple Podcasts. If you want to help us out, it just takes a minute. Or subscribe to us if you haven't already on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and all those places. So we'll see you back here next week for Starring Stephanie, where we're reading the books of your childhood.
So you don't have to.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.